Hi. I'm terrible at Marvel Vs. Capcom.
No, all of them. Every single one. Oh, baby. Oh, fuck! No, Daddy! Do I fight? Do I fight?
So here's a video about characters I want to see in Infinite because I'm a glutton for punishment.
So here's a list of rules. I don't want to take up more video time than I need to, so just pause and read them. Or don't, and complain later. All up to you, friend.
Dare to believe you can survive.
When Infinite was announced, Capcom's press release regarding the game stated, in addition to regular major title releases each fiscal year, Capcom is currently focused on reviving series that have not had new entries recently, or otherwise dormant IP. And yeah, Capcom does have a lot of games they put out that go on to just kinda exist and take up space in the universe. But with this press release statement in mind, I can think of one well-reviewed title that sold piss poorly that I think should get a second chance. Zack and Wiki Quest for Barbarossa's Treasure is probably Capcom's worst-selling game, or at the very least, a very strong contender. Capcom's product manager said, "We can take a part of the blame on ourselves by having it star a shirtless boy pirate." That's the biggest load of baloney I've ever heard in my life. Then again, Jack Sparrow wears a shirt, and Pirates of the Caribbean is somehow on its 5th fucking movie. I guess the two have correlation. I don't fucking know. But then he also says the game is a personal favorite of a lot of people in Capcom. So don't be surprised if you see it again, but we have nothing in the works at the moment. Well, you said that 10 years ago. Chap chap! Capcom is no stranger to adding cartoony characters that heavily clash with the Marvel side, so adding Zack and Wiki shouldn't be too different. And in terms of moves, in the game, Wiki turns into a variety of animals that Zack mostly uses to solve puzzles. But if Capcom wills it, Zack and Wiki's next big puzzle will be Infinite's tier list.
Dare to believe you can survive.
I feel like I shouldn't like Groot. I don't know what he's like in the Guardians of the Galaxy comics, but as far as the film goes, I feel like I shouldn't like him. Nobody knew who he was prior to the movie, and now he's a cultural icon because he says "I am Groot" 50 times, and repeating things ad nauseum is the quickest way to ensure you'll never run out of Funko Pops to sell.
Why do I own this?
Raccoon already showed up in Ultimate Marvel 3, so I think the very next one on the Guardians checklist would be his good old buddy. Capcom would probably sneak a couple of technological weapons into Groot's moveset, but otherwise, dude's a tree. And I'm pretty sure playable tree isn't a thing that exists in a fighting game yet. So, you know, get creative. Go nuts. Heck, even if you do a shit job in the gameplay department, you wouldn't have to worry about a voice actor. The guy'd only have 3 words to say. I'm not sure what the pay rate on that would be, but I'd imagine you'll save a penny or two. Pennies that you can then put towards Funko Pops!
Dare to believe you can survive.
When Marvel 3 came out, the newest Resident Evil game at the time was Resi 5. So naturally, for promotional purposes, most of the Resident Evil characters in that game were based off of their appearances from 5. I have little to no doubt that a similar thing will occur with Infinite and the newly released Resident Evil 7. I haven't played 7 yet, but from the bits of footage I have seen, I don't think I need to play the game to know that I want Jack Baker in Infinite. At first glance, Jack appears to be an ordinary guy. Not that this stops ordinary guys from trying to fight Marvel superheroes to begin with, but given that he comes from a Resi title, it's safe to assume there's more to him than one would think. While some standard moves could still involve menial items like shovels and knives, I'm sure he's got some crazy mutations he can transform into. Plus, his other family members are infected as well. Marguerite's gimmick appears to be biohazardous bugs, and I keep hearing Lucas is pretty much Jigsaw. So summoning his infected family members could add additional variety to Jack's moveset. His level 3 move could be him sitting his opponent down at their Texas Chainsaw Massacre-ass dining room table and force-feeding them their delectable offerings. Not that I know how Jack is gonna force-feed Iron Man, but does he look like he cares?
Man, not again!
Dare to believe you can survive.
This next one's kinda cheating because it would make more sense as an alternate costume for a pre-existing character rather than an entirely separate brand spanking new character. So it's not kinda cheating, it's completely cheating, but I digress. Capcom, if you bring back MODOK, can you do your boy Smash a solid and put in the Donald Trump version of him as well? MODOK is the kind of character where you could replace his face with anyone else's and it'll be hilarious. And if the replacement face in question is already pretty funny on its own, you've got a match made in heaven. Again, this would make more sense as an alternate skin, as I'm pretty sure MODOK only appeared in one comic one time. But even then, I doubt it'll happen at all. There was supposed to be an alternate costume for Magneto in Marvel 3 based on his appearance in a comic called House of M, but it was removed because he looked too similar to the King of Spain. So if rough comparisons are enough to pull the plug, Capcom definitely would not get out of this one alive. But imagine if. You can even get Trump himself to voice the character. Just have a guy set up an interview with him, walk up to him and go, "Hey, sir, Mr. Trump, can you just say some random shit into this microphone real quick?"
We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
Thanks. I mean, obviously, don't actually tell him what the voice lines are for. You keep that part on the down low. Don't worry. He's not going to find out. He's too busy telling trans people where they're allowed to pee and selling your porn history to Comcast. He's not going to find out. Don't worry about it. And if he does, stay tuned to Twitter that day. It'll be a hoot.
Dare to believe you can survive.
At least 2 other Capcom series owe their existence to Resident Evil. Devil May Cry started out as the original Resident Evil 4, before the developers decided they were going in too balls deep and decided to make it its own separate thing. But long before Devil May Cry, someone at Capcom asked, "What if we made Resident Evil, but with dinosaurs?" And that's pretty much what they did, and Dino Crisis was a pretty alright game. There's certainly a reason Resi went on to become Capcom's big horror series and this didn't, but hell, if the idea of lobbing dinosaurs at my enemies isn't a thought worth some consideration. Regina would probably play a bit like Chris, with the kind of power you would expect a member of the military to be carrying. But, much like Frank West throws zombies at his opponents, Regina's moveset could involve sending out dinosaurs. And although dialogue is probably the last reason we play Marvel vs. Capcom, I would love to see if an exchange between Regina and Spider-Man references this comic book panel. You know, the one that somehow keeps ending up on everyone's Twitter feed every other week. Capcom likes their memes.
Dare to believe you can survive.
Zombies are pretty overplayed, but a close second would have to be vampires. Until you meet Blade. Then you don't care anymore. For my money, Blade's one of the coolest vampires in media. While it was more than likely Wesley Snipes who popularized the character with his portrayal, Blade was already kicking a lot of ass beforehand. With most of the abilities you expect from a vampire, he also knows every martial art under the sun. He's also great with a wide variety of swords, hence the nickname, and after his hand got cut off at one point, he gained a gun hand during the Civil War storyline. Combine all this with his vampire speed, and I think it would make him fun to control in Infinite. While there appears to be an ever so slight chance he'll show up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at some point, I think his best bet for the time being is actually for Infinite. Due to Blade's status as a vampire hunter, or a demon hunter in general, Capcom has a lot of characters that make suitable targets, so I think he'd be a stellar pick, provided Capcom cares about giving Infinite an actual plot that isn't just a bunch of mediocre arcade mode endings this time.
Dare to believe you can survive.
Almost. I was almost with you guys. So close. I almost picked John Talbane as the Darkstalkers representative. So close. Was gonna actually agree with the internet for once on something. I know. But then I remembered Lord Raptor exists. Yeesh, and I just got done saying zombies were outplayed too. Well, not Raptor. Raptor outplays you. Seriously, his entire musical career was all just to set up some kind of jank ritualistic sacrifice that killed him and an entire venue of his fans. All so he could get a shot at overthrowing a malicious demonic emperor. Now that's a fucking backstory. Yeah, what? Peter Parker got bit by a spider, Bruce Banner was too close to science gas, and Stephen Strange broke his hands. Sorry, folks. Raptor wins. I don't write the rules around here. I just enforce them. And then moving on from that, I love Lord Raptor's design. For someone who's supposed to be dead, he's ironically probably the most lively of the Darkstalkers cast, a trait that I'm sure would carry over into Marvel Vs. Capcom. I can't play Morrigan, Felicia, or Hishenko in Marvel 3 to save my life, but fourth time's the charm, I always say all the time.
Dare to believe you can survive.
With the news that the Marvel side of Infinite's roster would heavily include characters featured in the MCU, one character immediately came to mind. Loki, at least as far as Tom Hiddleston's portrayal goes anyway, is one of my favorite villains. Now, to be fair, most of the MCU's villains are not a particularly hard act to follow. Many of them are average at best and boring at worst. But then to go from 0 to 100 like that, it just deserves some recognition by itself. But then other than that, Loki is just a very entertaining villain in general, due in part to his trickster nature. But then herein lies a slight problem. If Loki is to get into Infinite, would it be the movie version, or the version with the goofy helmet? Well, the goofy version with the helmet all the time. They did say the game would focus on characters featured in the cinematic universe, and while the Marvel characters confirmed so far appear somewhat close to their movie versions in terms of aesthetics, their voice actors are the same as Marvel 3. So they probably meant MCU characters, but not MCU versions of characters, if that makes any sense. Well, Capcom, if you do end up lifting a Marvel character from the MCU 100% directly, consider Loki.
Dare to believe you can survive.
This next and final Capcom game is one that I don't think sold that well either. But, well, that's gold mines compared to Zack and Wiki. But one that still has a pretty strong fan following, I think. And even if we ignore anything to do with fan demand, I think this is one of the few Capcom characters that actually really fit in with the Marvel superheroes quite nicely. And if you disagree... he's gonna get real mad. Asura's Wrath is admittedly a little average in the gameplay department, but the presentation, the story, and the sheer spectacle of it all make it a damn good time nonetheless. Asura himself is also probably the most powerful character across the whole Capcom universe, able to lift up a finger the size of an entire continent. And a big continent too, none of that weak shit. In addition to his sheer power, Asura goes through a ton of different forms throughout the game that you could definitely put into a moveset. And maybe if the player relies on the rage too much, you could end up with an armless Asura. I don't know, there's plenty to pull from to implement Asura into this game. Most Capcom franchises that go dormant at least get referenced somewhere down the road, but I don't think I've heard a peep from Asura's Wrath since it came out. It's time to fix that.
Dare to believe you can survive.
Deadpool is one of my favorite characters to use in Marvel 3, and is also one of my favorite comic superheroes. This should come as no surprise. His wacky shenanigans and fourth wall breaking are about up to par with my standards. So now, with the possibility that he and other mutants might not make it into MVC Infinite, I thought of who would be a good replacement. And there's probably multiple Marvel characters who are equal to Deadpool in wackiness, but the same one kept coming back to mind. Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl is definitely the least known Marvel character on my list. And yeah, that probably included Trump Doc too. But while she lacks the fourth wall breaking Deadpool's known for, some of her accomplishments rival those of the Merc with a Mouth. And despite having silly powers, which would be fun in a fighting game one way or the other, she has a staggering amount of victories to her name. She defeated Doctor Doom with an army of squirrels, defeated Thanos before they retconned it and said she apparently defeated a clone, which I think is still impressive in and of itself, and befriended and convinced Galactus to leave Earth alone. Galactus, the guy whose sole purpose is to devour planets like he's drunk at an all-you-can-eat buffet. This is debatably the joke. Like, they wouldn't actually make a character who looks this goofy, this absurdly strong. But she's proven to be more than comic relief, and in my opinion is actually one of the more relatable Marvel characters. You know, minus the tail and everything. She has an extremely friendly personality, as evident by her many squirrels, her at one point trying really hard to become Iron Man's sidekick, and being the nanny of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones' daughter. And that's all well and dandy, but I just want to throw squirrels at people. I know I said dinosaurs before, but that's cool, and this is hilarious.
I wanna take you for a ride.